is on the horn. Um, you know, trying to catch anybody, see what the latest news is, see how people are doing. I know it's a short notice, but I gotta kind of wing it from time to time because if I plan stuff, depends on what the weather's like, depends on what kind of satellite I get. Sometimes my wires don't be on point, so I don't want to tell somebody I'm gonna be there at a certain time and then it's not there. So sometimes I'm just kind of forced to kind of wing it and make it happen on the humdrum. So some people is gonna be cool with it, some aren't. Once I get my stuff properly up to par, I will be having some designated times for people to come through, and also I will, try to get some notifications for live streams. But sometimes I know sometimes I'm gonna get caught, almost talking to myself and stuff. So I get it. I know. I haven't really, I was talking about the NBA. I did a video. I did my own take about um was it Rick Carlisle, the Pacers head coach, and he was talking about the free throw disparities, and I tell it all the time. Some people ain't gonna like what I say. The NBA is just like WWF. It's painful to watch it, um, because they're selling an agenda which has nothing to do with the actual game. They're selling an agenda because they want people that they have bought invested in to be representing what they want. It's got nothing to do with wins and losses as much as it's got to do with pushing an agenda. So you kind of like at their heck and call. Um, if you a fan of that mess, if you're not a fan of it, you will probably just watch old videos of old NBA. You know, um, I did do a video where I acknowledged the 2004 Pistons. I should put that one up. Um, you know, I talk about a lot of different things. Like I said before, it depends on what people want to talk about, where the day takes them, what they feeling. So we can talk about whatever. You know, I kind of let it dictate to what we're doing. So I have no. Again, there's no limits. Conversation is conversation, and we go from there. So we see where it goes. That's kind of like where the day takes you. You look like you play for the Pistons. Well, I don't handle extortion because I ain't had nothing to extort. And I have security. So don't try me. I've had some real interesting situations in the past. So I let some people act like they gonna troll, but I ain't the one. I ain't the one. I don't know what would make you say that though, but I ain't the one. So I hope you got a better next question than that. People that openly talk about things that they may or may not partake in. Well, it depends on what your question is. You how you do it, who are you involved with, and I can help you. It depends on who you're involved with. If you got some hitters, okay, so who's trying to hustle you? You got to tell me who's trying to hustle. You got to give me a scenario. You can't just leave it all up in the open because I got to have some details. You know, if people are trying to get stuff off of you, depends on what you can put out there. There's ways that you can kind of counter that, but you have to think psychologically. You have to think intuitive and see. There's always a trade for trade, value for value. So it all depends on which way you coming with that. So you want a question asked, you got to give me some details. I just can't go off of because you just give me the skinny. You ain't give me the fat of it. So I need to know. So anybody got some questions they want to ask, we can talk. I don't do riddles. This ain't Wheel of Fortune. This ain't Jeopardy. You tell me what you're working with, we can fill in the blank. This ain't Scrabble. Okay. So what you do is you go to you have a DSSH in your town. That's what you do. DSSH. You have to have your stuff. I went through something. What's up, Ted? I went through something like this. And the best advice I will give you is this. Get that thing monetary where you have stubs. You got to have your receipts. Have your receipts. Because if it's a he said, she said, and they said, you're gonna get jacked. And then they will either try to incarcerate you, they will they will repossess your cars or something, or um they'll do with your money. They will garner your wages. So or you get old and get your social security. So you got 3 or 4, you gotta hit that now. You gotta get proof. You got to have receipts, documentation, get in touch with DSSH in your place and child services and get that thing documented. Okay, well, you might have to go to there is a thing called I went through this. There's like a court alternative. Okay. So what you got to do is take it to I say a school counselor. Depends on how old your kids are. He didn't shut down Shaq. I'm not letting that one fly. He didn't shut him down. Shaq averaged 26 and 14. How's that a shutdown? Kobe was balling for 20, but he was pathetic. Fox and Fisher and Gary, you need that spiritual uplift. Somebody in there will direct you to what you need. I can tell you that. I watched that finals very verbatim. They just stopped passing the ball inside. Kobe took them on stupid over dribbling and got himself caught. Not just paying your tithes, but you also have to talk to certain people inside the church. There are always people in there who will guide your light. Take my word on it. And then you go to your school's counselors and then you have conversation with the principals. You have to make this into a public forum. That's how you combat that. There was a parental alternative thing that I had to go through where to do a certain steps so it didn't become in part of the courts. See, the worst mistake your ex and the girl are doing is going to the courts. That's a no-no. Because then you can have a detective and say this and that and to presenting your rights. It depends on how old the kids are. There's a lot of little factors. So I'm telling you, you got more rights than you think. Don't get bent out of shape. Um, I can't think of the name of the place now, but anyway, what I dealt with, they were protecting your parental rights and everybody's rights. So they're delegates. They have they have a certain type of delegates that can see it through. He played he played as good a defense as you could on Shaq then. He never shut him down. 26 and 14 ain't no shutdown, okay? That might be okay compared to what he was wailing on people previous threes. I mean, you can say that was a bit of a little bit less for Shaq, but Shaq never got shut down. Shaq never got shut down. But what happened was, if he used the Chauncey Billups against Gary Payton, that was the big discrepancy. He outscored Gary by 100 points, yo. That was the series right there. I not lying. And then the energy bar of Lindsey Hunter off the bench tore the Lakers behind up. Kobe got tried to be cute on the perimeter, dancing and bouncing the rock. Tayshaun and Rip was guarding him, and he got caught up in the game. Of course, they weren't scoring as many points because Detroit was able to stick with them because they were playing 2-man, 1-man ball. That's what happened. That's what happened. But no one stopped Shaq in his peak in his prime. Every finals that him and Kobe participated in, he was the best player on the Lakers. Kobe stunk that last finals. People want to know why Kobe's legacy gets kind of like a side-eye because of that. They romanticized the last two. I give him the Orlando one. That's probably the best finals he had, if you want my opinion. He went out pretty weak in Game 7 against Boston, but the finals against Orlando was probably his best one, if I'm going to be honest. But that wasn't that memorable. He had some big moments in finals, but that wasn't that memorable. Yeah, you ain't gotta remind me. I mean, whenever I get into conversations and I have him on the lower, if I have him in the top 10, he's barely in my top 10 because I hold that against him. I do. He had too many El Crapo performances where he quit or he acted funny that I saw, that I documented. I got memory on that. I remember when he pouted because Phil Jackson got in his behind against Sacramento 20 years ago. They had a game, and somebody on the Lakers said, I'll never play with him again. They never said who it was. But his attitude, because Phil called him out for ball hogging, he did it. He did. He cost him that series. He did. That's why there is a reluctance on me and some other. Well, my reluctance, I'll never say top 3 or 4. Yeah, you could say the Jordan mindset, but Jordan didn't act like no snot-nosed kid. Jordan edified Scottie Pippen. And let me ask you this just in English. Is Scottie Pippen the half of Shaquille O'Neal? So my knocks against him are legit. My knocks against Kobe are legit. We can talk about Mamba mentality and how incredibly talented he was, and I give you that. I had a love-loathe relationship with him. His talent level was through the roof, but his mindset at times was at the bottom of the basement. And he was extremist, and he could be frustrating. And therefore, that's why he don't rank as high with me. Because I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, yeah, I'm a fan of a lot of cats, and I'll call them out. I'm not gonna say no one's above not being called out. See, the difference between him and LeBron, so he had that game where he scored 8 points. LeBron would never do that. But no one, he shot everything. And he tried to make the acrobatic shot. He wanted to be the superhero. He put himself in those predicaments in what he did. Yeah. So, like I said, he's one of the most polarizing in people in sports or entertainment. One of the most polarizing figures ever. And I wouldn't call Jordan a bad shot maker, but things I hold against Jordan ain't about his shooting per se. But Kobe did because he tried to be the acrobatic. He tried to do those impossible. He had to have some Larry Bird influence in him. You know, he definitely was shooting. But I know he was haunted by Utah for a long time. Sometimes that was just idiotic, though. He did stuff that didn't bring his teammates involved, and sometimes he just didn't play smart. That's why he'll never be on the level as Michael Jordan with me. I don't care how much he impersonated him, how much he was an AI robot of him. That wasn't the smartest moves. He made stuff a lot more difficult, and I hold it against him. So I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed. Now the Toronto game, I give him that. He played incredible. They needed that. That's one thing. And the game against Dallas, he sat down for a quarter. When he played within the concept, that's one thing. But like his last game against Utah, that's the kind of indulgence mess that I didn't care for because it was just crappy. And he was just throwing and jacking, and he would become like a lumberjack. Because they sucked. That's why he was very upset with what he was stuck with. It was an embarrassment. That's why he was ready to go. That's why he went out. I mean, they suck. Yeah, it's been good. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. I will give it to you. It's been good. I mean, at least that's something to get excited about. It's spring training. I'm not really putting a lot of stock in it. I don't really put a lot of stock in spring training. It's a bit overrated. Unless somebody comes out that emerges that's great or something, I don't really, I'm not really going to make a big to do about it. Felix, he never got no run support. King Felix was a beast, yo. I lived in the area. He never got no support. Felix would have been like Clayton Kershaw's had he had some support. He was nasty. Never had no support. That's what I'm saying. I lived out there. I remember. He would have been in the same sentence with Randy Johnson and could have been almost as big as Ichiro. I mean, he had the goods. They just didn't give him no support. They never supported him. The only person who ever got to Felix though was Trout. Trout was the only one that, for whatever reason, he had his number. They had some interesting battles, but yeah. Well, I'm not gonna. It's a situation where it's a situation where um, um, pitchers get hot at the moment. You know, it's kind of like a baseball pinch hitter who happens to have big hits, or basketball someone shoots has a plays great in the plays a postseason off of what used to be talking about role players. Sometimes pitchers that just get hot because baseball is one of those strange oddities where you know you're not considered a scrub by doing it, but your record and your career can be scrubby. But yeah, it's not memorable. It really ain't because it's hard to throw a perfect game. You know, that's one of the things that's still very rare. That's special. Yeah, well, it's not the end all be all. So, oh, okay. Yeah, I had to do that video. I had to do that video. And Rick Carlisle let it be known. He's not the only head coach to say that. The member coach from Toronto said that too. And these games were both highly contested and close. And when Shaquille O'Neal played, that's okay. Anthony Davis is not Shaquille O'Neal. LeBron James is not driving to the lane like that. You can't have 150 to 145 game and have the 27-point free throw disparity, especially when you got an eighth seeded team. That don't even make no sense. They're playing tournament team. They're not even legit. See, I understand if the Lakers were top 2 or 3 in the West. I understand if they had a dominant player like Shaq or something. I don't get it for what they represent. Well, I ain't got to say nothing like that. I mean, it's already what they want to do. So I told you the fix is in. So I already know. Most people who got 2 good eyes know the fix is in. They're gonna see to it that y'all do good by any means. I already know. You know. Yeah, and they usually get their butt beat by Miami, and the Tatum and Brown ain't that memorable. So you know, I'd already had that this conversation about Boston. I'm not take the Celtics serious. He's romanticized. Why I don't know because it's not like I mean, he's not the first player from high school to be a multi-winner and, you know, some people just, romanticize what they want to. But I find it ad nauseum also. Yeah, well, they also were not just his peers, but they retired, and he did get traded for Vladi, and those guys played for a long time, and well, he knew he was gonna have to retire anyway. His body gave out on him, you know. So, well, it's the competition. I think you gotta remember something. They look at it like as a talent, but they also look at it as a fan too, and they probably say, "I can do what so and so can do," and you know. But there comes a time when you got to know when enough's enough. Injuries start to really not LeBron's case because he really don't get injured allegedly, but regular folk. I mean, you see the decline in him too. So you know, depends on who you're talking about. I think that most times they pay homage, but most times you can tell a guy, and it's there's a lot of factors going involved. You know, I just don't like to see players that I know that shouldn't be out there playing because then it looks bad, and then they end up just playing to be playing, and they're not. You know, you know, he had moments where he looked good to great, but then he had moments where he looked old. He didn't have the same wheels no more. I mean, yes, he could play at a level, but he couldn't be the player he was at a level. And that's what made it so tough. Not that he couldn't play and still have moments where he had people he had moments before he got hurt where he kind of gave you a little bit of a shot, but it's kind of like when you saw Tyson fighting past the point, wasn't the same. You know, understand the ego and the competitive nature, but it's just not, it's not common sense. It's not common sense. That's not something I really talk about. I mean, in all honesty, not being rude or nothing, it's just not something I really want to talk about because it was just nothing I really want. I wasn't depressed. I just was looking at him like, you stuck around too long. It's nothing to really be depressed about. I wasn't depressed because, see, I understood that some cats needed money. Some cats were doing it so they could get a TV gig and a blazer. So it wasn't something that I was depressed. Um, because I'm gonna tell you something. When I was watching as a kid, I didn't understand it per se. So I got older seeing it. I saw extremes, you know, but I wasn't depressed. I got it where the guys were getting paid because it's like Jordan said, guys get paid on what they did 5, 10 years prior. So guys need that money for different reasons. So that's how I look at it. You talking about Goose Gossage? None in particular. I mean, he just came in. He had some games where he made some save. Nothing. I don't really talk about him no more. I think the personal side of him kind of wore me on. So you know, but I remember when he was a dominant reliever. I like to leave it at that. My most interesting moment of him was that pitch he gave to George Brett with the tar bat. That was the most probably the moment that stands out with me as much as him saving the game. But that one will always be like one that I'll never forget. Just him winning. That's it. Just him winning. There's nothing really more than that. I remember when he had to deal with prostate cancer and he won, and that's it. Just him winning. You know, I was glad to see him get his rings. I don't really have anything, because he was in the dugout and things orchestrated the way they're supposed to, and he had a great run, and I miss him, but yeah, so I don't walk around with a lot of what you call manager moments. I mean, I like to see guys win. That's my favorite moments for them. Um, that it's gimmicky. You know, the whole thing now where they're speeding up the pitch count or the batter count. They just always feel like they're drawn in infield, the whole thing. You know, it's always like something that they're trying to do, and it just doesn't seem like it's genuine. Interleague playing as great as it should be. Um, there's just things that they just don't get right. So there's nothing I can really say about it. Well, that's a problem because now they're like short order cooks, the line cooks and them chefs, and everybody's got like a title. So they manipulate how they get saves. It's kind of like a triple double in the NBA. You know, stuff is so watered down. It's not the same. They do everything off analytics and they try to manipulate, and you know, it's a joke. It's a joke. I'm not. Tyler Jr. got that scandal against him, and no one's gonna touch him. And they would have to unload Stanton. You know, they no. They need to get guys who can get on base. They don't need pick and pop. If Ty Hodges Jr. had have been clean, and this was like a couple 2 3 years ago, okay. He's got a big old contract with the Padres, and they probably just don't. I think the smear campaign is kind of work against him. But definitely 2 3 years ago, he before everything went down, it would have been interesting to get him. I just don't think that they value getting guys like they once did. They weren't no, because he can't stay healthy. He's got a pitcher, he's got a hit, and he's a unique talent. However, how much of a unique talent does that translate to what they want? I don't know. So I get it. Most of the guys that they see out now, they don't feel that they're missing anything. I get it. Yeah, but he's in an era where his skill set would be like if he was a basketball player, they'd be calling him like Kyrie and Steph. He beat you in different ways. But baseball doesn't have that kind of interest like that. Not like that. He's bad. You know, I have to see how it all plays out, but he got a couple rings and a big time player. I'm taking Chef because Chef's Hall of Fame worthy. Bettis' career ain't halfway over, and Bettis hasn't really done like that. Better argument would be Mookie Bettis versus Ichiro, or Mookie Bettis against Ricky Henderson, or against leadoff hitters, not against a power hitter. He's not. He ain't Chef. He's all around talent. Chef had a Hall of Fame career. Bettis ain't done yet. I can't compare a guy who I could consider a Hall of Famer to a guy who might be or close to. It's not fair. Chef had a great career. He won ring. He got a ring. and he was a great talent. So hit for average, had a glove too. A Rod's gonna win. You know, Cal Ripken got all the games and the 3,000 hits and stuff, but A Rod was more dynamic. He was inspired by Cal, but I think A Rod surpassed him. Because Cal was as good as also as great as he was, he had Eddie Murray. No one ever had to carry A Rod's bat. Not saying that Ripken didn't do his thing, but just saying so. Oral, you're comparing him to a Hall of Fame great pitcher. When you asked me that question earlier against Coles, who's still in development, Oral was a better pitcher. He was dominant. Again, he had run support. Um, I have to think of a pitcher that didn't get their support, and I can make that argument, but can't compare him against. Felix was a power pitcher, but Oral was more consistent. Oral was pitching in big games. See, I have to take the whole body of weight. Can't just go by regular season. Oral came up big. They won the World Series in '88. Oral was a big reason. Felix ain't DC up to nothing. So you gotta you gotta have something on your resume that, next level. Be honest with you, a lot of his career is underrated because he could have been considered one of the two or three greatest switch hitters. But he was low key, he was quiet, and they just didn't really vibe him. But he was a bad cat. Black manager and different teams and a great hitter. Yeah, that's an understatement. That's baseball, though. He was one of the baddest talents ever. Yeah, for that time, yeah. Well, for his time, yeah. There was truth. There was truth. Cats of another year, another time used to say the same exact thing. Like I always say, different era, different time. So, a lot of guys like that. That's debatable. It's debatable. He had a great. He had some great years. I don't know. It's debatable. Could be. I mean, but then again, if some of the people they putting in the Hall of Fame, yeah, why not? I can't argue. Some of them, yeah. Lord knows he was more of a bigger hitter than Larry Walker, but the what's going to happen? You're going to see some guys that way you'll say, yeah, he should be Hall of Famer, and I'm not arguing. So well, be sure wasn't a rapper, and it's not fair to compare an R&B pop artist to a rapper or artist today. When I did the Karis One video, I'm talking about what when Kendrick Lamar was coming out after Drake and coming after J. Cole. And I have a problem with what Kendrick Lamar said. That's what the purpose was. Uh, it can't compare to Al Sure. He was a different type of artist. He's an R&B pop artist. He dabbled with hip hop, but it was a different era. You can't compare. They're not the same. 30 years ago, Hammer caught a lot of hate. Today, Hammer would be what? You can't compare it. There are no sellouts in terms of how they sell what they do because they're operating under the same status quo. They're all stream artists and they all working for major labels and they're not really it's not even it's comical for a rapper today to come out and call someone out because they're all in the same chain. Truth is, it was 30 years ago for them to call each other out, but at least back then, cats had like labels with the type of rap they were trying to do. All these cats are in the same boat today. The only difference is they have a different cadence, but they're in this because there ain't that many labels. There isn't that kind of money spent, and they've all been successful. See, it's kind of like the Cat Williams syndrome, with a cat that has his own lane, but he's also been involved with those said other people, and he knows the game. But they're all veterans. It's a joke because Kendrick Lamar's been around 15 years now. Drake's been around 15 years now. J. Cole. How are you going to come out and say something when these are cats that are in the same status quo? Okay. There, yeah, that was coming. That was coming. If he goes to Belize, he gets out of the country, he'll be all right. They looking for them videos. That's what's up. If they get anything to get him on, I'm sure he got tipped off though. He ain't stupid. If he's stupid enough, he'll get caught. But it's just a matter of time for they were. If they can find a way to put money on the books, and it depends on whether if they break him, but if he gets out of the country, then what? Then what? Depends. Well, he be called whatever you want to call him, but if he got money on the books, he's straight. That's the key. I don't know. I know that I know that they, they they got enough to get him, but they have to break a lot of money to get him though. There's a lot of money involved. A lot of money. I mean, he's sitting on a lot of bags, so so well, Clive Davis more importantly. More about Clive. But it's the industry, so I mean, and Andre Harrell too. There's a long lot of them that had access. It's initiation. It's like a game, but they all got to go through a ritual. You know, I remember when he was in the mailroom clerk, and he did the video "Nail It to the Wall" with Stacey Lassaw. He was a background dancer. So it's the things you do to become a big success story. Clive Davis, yeah, Clive is behind all that. Come on now, you didn't read some of my stuff. I told you about Clive Davis. I've talked about him quite ad infinitum. You should do some research about him. He's a very demented dude who loves black artistry. He was the one with Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, Phyllis Hyman, LA and Babyface, Usher. It's a long line. So ain't no pet peeve for me because it just shows you that if you're stupid enough to have to sign a deal today, you're dumb. If you can make enough money either touring or your streams, or you can be an indie, why would you give up with that? That's a merch deal. That's a sucker move. It's a sucker move. They own you. They flat out own you. It ain't just your music. It's also your merch. So that's dumb. I know Meg the Stallion and stuff and them right now doing it. It's a sucker move. That artist, her, she had a bad move too. Bad business. They still getting hustled out here. I'm like, they ain't learned nothing yet. They haven't learned. Prince tried to tell him. Michael Jackson tried to tell him. Well, sign these deals. I can't say nothing because people sign stupid deals. They're bad deals all the way around. Sports is worse because you get a deal like Ricky Williams had, which was embarrassing. Master P, that was embarrassing. Um, Cats have to have so many incentives and they have to meet so many criterias, and people get in the media get it twisted. The fans get it twisted because they're thinking they're getting paid like crazy. It's not like that. You have to have so many incentives. Now I'll tell you this: like Patrick Mahomes, did more than made up for his deal. He's got 2 rings since he signed that deal, but it ain't going to be the gist of what he's been done because of the you know translation for all that to kick in. So, but they're over exaggerated. Excuse me. It only depends on how much is guaranteed. If it ain't guaranteed, that's the key. They can do deferred payments and pay for like 20, 30, 50 years. I don't know nothing about that. But I guess if he got an old deal, that's cool. Barkley stayed in money. That's why he gambles so much. Amazingly, Barkley didn't have the Bruno Mars situation. Amazingly. But they probably covered him because he generates crazy cash. Yeah. Yeah, it all depends on how y'all, what kind of negotiation y'all do. I mean, you address your needs and, I mean, you got the kind of team to make some inroads. You got a young team. You got the kind of team that can compete with Detroit, Frisco, Philly. So, you in the mix. So, you know, y'all. But now because their defense let them down a lot, they lost in different intervals. So you can never have enough defense. But I mean, I think that's obvious against the way y'all lost to the 49ers. A couple things that y'all had Purdy kind of confused and he figured out in the second half. So you can never have enough pass rushers. Yeah, I like him too. I think he's gonna be all right. I just think he needs about another year or two. So in a couple years he'll be running things. I think the Packers are gonna be running the NFC. I already said that. I don't see Philly and Frisco being dominant forever. Not like this, especially Frisco. Sooner or later, something got to give. You can't be going to Super Bowls and choking them away. Sooner or later, something got to give. And Philly's coach, he's got to be smart or they're going to be, so something got to give. And I think Green Bay could definitely kick it up. They're limited, period. I think that Shanahan, he gets stomped by it, but that's on them though. So I don't feel sorry for him though. Now he got to a Super Bowl. Mark Sanchez never got to a Super Bowl. He actually did his part with said team. Sanchez was dominant by a coach that had a bend don't break mindset. Purdy won postseason games. He got to a Super Bowl. There's no comparison. Mark Sanchez was not the talent of Purdy. Purdy was more talented. Now, is he talented in the sense that he can, uh, you know, I mean, he was close to winning a Super Bowl this past year. Mark Sanchez ain't never had such a problem. I think what you want to say about Purdy, It came down to the last 10 seconds of the game in overtime. Sanchez ain't never had that. Sanchez couldn't have that if he was in a room by himself. He never was on that guy's level. We'll never know. We'll never know. I don't know because he had the man's father, and the man's father choked him out. So I don't know. You know, I don't know. He was a better player, but I don't know. We will never know. We will never know. What's up? How you doing? What's up? What's up? What's up? What you want to talk about tonight? I already been through that. We talked about that already. I like John Taylor, um, Tony Hill back in the day, Chris Carter, James Lofton. What's up, Goat? What kind of questions you got tonight? Mm. Denver versus Seattle in '94, because that was, when that was 30 years ago. That's hard to believe. The Kimbe on the floor, that was huge. Um, Obviously, people will say Chicago against Utah, and um, one of those Phoenix games against the Bulls in Chicago Stadium was crazy. So like that. So those kind of come to mind. Houston against Phoenix in the playoffs, those was crazy. Houston against Orlando in the finals. Anyway, I'm gonna go roll. I gotta go eat and be back tomorrow. I got some come up, so I will address that tomorrow. Say the questions. Major League road wins were always the Yankees ones. Those were the most impressive on the road because they were built for the road. That's what great teams did. All the teams that were dominant won on the road in hostile environments. There is no more what I call home cooking no more. I don't buy it anymore. Football is the only sport that I still think that's home cooking. But baseball, basketball, Not so much. It's been leveled off, but the NFL is still the only one. All right, I'm out. Peace out. Catch you tomorrow.